Twilight's New Moon by Zoe Horse. Chapter 4. Fluttershy and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. Fluttershy sat up with a big yawn, her eyes already alive and bright. Today was the day. She had been building up to this for the last month. Today was finally the day she'd tell Rainbow Dash how she feels. She had tried so many times, but when Dashy was standing in front of her, her little voice disappeared deep into her throat, and she couldn't seem to get the words out. But today would be different. Fluttershy went downstairs, almost skipping as she went. "Good morning, lovelies," she called out. The various bunnies, ferrets, opossums, squirrels, and that one bear all chittered in greeting as she started getting out their feed. She could envision it now. She and Rainbow Dash were going flying later. She wasn't very good at flying, and so was always behind, but she didn't mind it too much. It meant she got to watch Rainbow Dash. Then, when they took a break, she had a special plan. She had the entire interaction planned out in her mind. She started daydreaming of it as she poured the critter food. "Rainbow Dash?" she would begin. "What's up, Fluts?" she would reply. "Well," she added a safety pause to get the words out properly. "You know when you caught me after I fell off that mountain?" she would continue. "Pfft, which one? You know I'm always there to save you," she would say, giving Fluttershy that trademark smile. "Well, I kind of realized that I like you. I mean, like you. If you know what I mean." She would trail off cutely at the end. Rainbow Dash would pause, tilt her head, and then smile wide. "Fluttershy! You have no idea how long I've been waiting for you to say that. I feel the exact same way," she would excitedly proclaim. "Can you kiss me on the mouth?" Fluttershy would then say. "Of course." And then they would fly up into the sky and kiss whilst spinning around. That's exactly what was going to happen today. And then they would go on many dates, touring Clownsdale, drinking a milkshake from the strange straw, buying a house, normal couple things. It would be perfect. The slight tug at Fluttershy's tail from one of the opossums alerted her that she had begun pouring the entire contents of the feed into the bowl, and large amounts of it was now on the floor. She let out a little giggle. She was so silly and in love. She carried on with all of her chores, and once they were all done, she went to leave the house. There was a sad growl from the bear, to which Fluttershy laughed and flew up to pet him. "Don't worry, Toby. You know I'd rather miss my own funeral than leave you on your own for too long." Toby growled a begrudging acceptance and went back to sleeping on the floor. Humming a familiar tune, Fluttershy gently flew into town. She was meeting Rainbow Dash at her cloud-top mansion, but needed to stop by Rarity on her way for a quick main extension fix. Fluttershy had never really questioned how she was able to afford such an insanely huge mansion. I guess you couldn't really put taxes on the sky. "Morning, Fluttershy." "Hey, good morning, Fluts. How are you today?" Fluttershy did her usual town ritual of happily nodding and waving to all those she passed. She was thankful they didn't expect a response from her. She was terrible at talking to ponies when she wasn't sure what she was going to say. As she fluttered down to the floor to head on into the boutique, she froze as she saw who was in the store. Trixie? Why was Trixie still here? Twilight had just kicked her out of town. She had done such dreadful things to those poor animals, and above all, forced Fluttershy's abilities with the animals to be the only way to save the day. That was so much pressure that Fluttershy did not want. She needed a breakdown session with Applejack to regain her nerves. And that very horse that had caused all this was now here with Rarity. She went low and eavesdropped in. She would never usually do something like this, but she didn't know what Trixie was capable of. What if she had mind control powers? What if she was going to kill Rarity and wear her like a hat? This was going to be a disaster. "Really now, Rainbow Dash," replied Rarity, seemingly captured by whatever Trixie was saying. Fluttershy's stomach dropped. What were they saying about Rainbow Dash? "Yes, I saw her leave Twilight's house this morning. She looked in such a state. Her mane was so untidy. I do hope she's all right," Trixie replied, her voice dripping with concern. Rarity made noises of agreement. "Rainbow Dash looked a mess, but her mane was always messy. It would have been incredibly messy to look wrong. What was she doing at Twilight's house this morning? Rainbow Dash said she would be sleeping in until about noon after her Wonderbolts tryouts. Was this the real reason? What possible reason could Rainbow Dash have been secretly spending the night at Twilight's library for? She came to the conclusion just as Rarity spelled it out loud. It would seem that Twilight may be having a little under-the-radar relationship with the Rainbow Dash. I must ask her about this. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Maybe you truly are starting to reform. Fluttershy could almost see the aspect ratio shrinking around her as she stumbled back away from the window. No, this couldn't be true. She could hear Trixie speaking back to Rarity, but none of it was sinking in. She stood up and tried to fly away. She couldn't seem to get off the ground, as she found her wings were rigidly locked to her side. She was stuck here with her thoughts, as she started to briskly walk away. All the images of her and Rainbow Dash flashed through her mind again, but instead of her touring and buying and drinking, it was Twilight. All the while she was standing far away and watching as her chromatic aberration was ripped away from her. She ignored everyone who tried to talk to her, much to their concern. The walls were starting to close in as she felt the familiar feeling of tears start to streak down her face. Slamming the door open to her house and trying her best not to hyperventilate, she rushed upstairs, ignoring all the animals that had already started fawning around her. She slammed the door shut, dove under the covers, curled up into a tiny ball, and started weeping. This was her entire week ruined. Months ruined. Years ruined. Life ruined. She continued to cry into her pillow for a long while, so much so that she lost track of time. She only left the safety of her bedsheets to grab from her emergency supply of oat-based breakfast bars with a thin layer of chocolate to rapidly consume. Her brain was a horrible mess of bad thoughts, full of images of her shattered hope for the future flashing in her mind. All the while new images of Rainbow Dash and Twilight, together gripping her heart. Her wings were wrapped around herself every time it started to get really bad. Usually when she was this bad, she needed a specific friend to come and help. Just one pony who could solve every problem. But right now, that specific friend was Rainbow Dash. And that would only break her down further. She didn't want to see or speak to anyone else for the rest of the day. Knock, knock, knock. Fuck! Who is that? She stayed under her covers, hoping whoever it was would just walk away. Fluttershy, it's Twilight. She let out an involuntary squeak at the voice. Even Rainbow Dash would be better than her right now. How was she meant to face her like this, when she had caused her to feel this terrible? Please, I'm kind of freaking out, and not in the best way. Fluttershy was torn in half. Part of her wanted to help one of her best friends through whatever she was going through. The other half hated her and wanted to scream at her for taking Rainbow Dash away from her. Her head compressed by her wings. She chastised herself for thinking like that. They had to be happy together. She should just be happy for them. She shouldn't be upset. Rainbow Dash was not her girlfriend. She had no claim over her. So logically, she shouldn't feel bad. So why did she? She had to go downstairs. Fluts? Came a much quieter call from the door, almost a plea. Coming! She called down and shuffled over to the mirror. She looked like a wreck, but luckily, Fluttershy's specialty was looking normal moments after a complete emotional wreck. Hair in an okay state and mouth free from oat crumbs, Fluttershy moved up to the door. She took a big breath. This was going to be one of the most difficult things she would ever do. But was she ready? She let out a little whimper. No. She opened the door. She was immediately greeted by a hug. I'm not doing too great, whispered the unicorn, who was hugging her tight. Usually, Fluttershy would squeeze back tight, but right now all she could manage was a little pat on the back. That's okay. Come in. Please get yourself comfortable. I'll get us tea, she said, putting on a dishonest tone of sympathy. She did not want to speak to Twilight right now. Not at all. But here she was. Twilight nodded with a sniffle and shuffled into one of the big armchairs where she remained, still looking a bit out of it. Fluttershy poured the tea, trying much harder than usual to stop her hooves from shaking. Most of the tea managed to get into the cups, and she carefully brought them over. She hopped into her own armchair opposite, wrapping her wings around herself like a safety blanket. Twilight wasn't saying anything, just sort of staring into space. Fluttershy recognized this as her "I am thinking of too many things" face. She was going to have to say something, wasn't she? Her wings tightened around herself. Twilight is your friend. You care about her. Ask her what's wrong. How about you start from the beginning? She eventually managed to get out. Twilight snapped back to reality and nodded. It all happened last night. Fluttershy exhaled loudly through her nose as the grip of her wings tightened around her body. Twilight was about to recount the details of her magical night with Rainbow Dash, wasn't she? I was at home, and things happened, and I ended up making out with somebody who I really shouldn't have. Fluttershy was still as a statue, apart from a small nod. She felt like if she made any movement at all, she would collapse into a pile of tears and feathers. It was using her willpower to keep the eyes dry. And it was good, real good. But now I'm stuck in a bad place where I'm just powerless when she's around, and hate that she has complete control over me. But she got me a present so special I don't even know what to do. I don't even know how she found out about it. And now She took a deep breath. Now I think I'm in some gnarled and twisted form of love. Fluttershy's eye twitched, but she gave another small nod. This was it. This was the end. Twilight was in love with Rainbow Dash. This was the end of any hope she had to feel safe and secure. Ever. She was doing her very best to keep her breathing slow and regulated. The only problem would come when Twilight wanted a response. I'm scared she's going to tell everyone about us, and it will all just spiral out of control, and I'll get banished and sent back to school to get bullied, and then she'll be without me, and I don't want to be without her, and I don't know what to do, and it's all too much, and I need help, she rambled, which quickly turned into a frustrated rant, ending with a frustrated stamp of her hoof onto this chair beneath her. Fluttershy was at a breaking point. She needed to say something, anything. She was caught at a horrible crossroads. She could hurt herself more and keep it all bottled up, sparing Twilight from any more complications to her psyche, and not adding more issues to an already horribly messy situation. Or she could tell the truth and take the weight off her shoulders, communicate healthily, and try to work out a solution for it together that'd make everything better in the long run. Fluttershy took a deep breath. It was make or break. She looked up at Twilight's hysterical face. I think, she managed to squeak out, you should tell Rainbow Dash how you really feel. She couldn't handle it. Sorry, She crumpled, tears flowing, entire head engulfed in her wings. She was pathetic. She had taken the easy option, and had even messed that up. She would have to go on until the rest of time knowing she gave Twilight the advice that she never had the courage to follow herself. It was a little while before she heard anything from the unicorn opposite to her. She couldn't see Twilight through her wings, but the feathery appendages shrank away when she heard what Twilight said next. Fluts, what the fuck does Rainbow Dash have to do with this? Huh? Fluttershy had just been spiritually smashed over the head with a bottle of apple cider. The spiritual beverage spilled down her form, as her wings slowly dropped to her side. Was it not Rainbow Dash you saw yesterday? That's what I heard from some pony, she squeaked out. Who? Trixie? Twilight's eye twitched, and she started shaking. Fluttershy shrank back into her chair, whimpering. She'd never seen Twilight this angry before. She had never felt in true fear of her life from one of her friends, but this was getting close. Twilight flung her mane back, and loudly let out a loud, groaning wail. Horn glowing, random objects in the house started shaking and glowing. A few small bottles of various liquids smashing. Fluttershy's wings slapped onto her own ears, trying to block out the sound. Any birds that were still roosting in the rafters scattered, flapping out of the window. That fucking, she said, groaning again and covering her eyes with her hooves. Twilight? Fluttershy was starting to piece things together, slowly. No, Fluts, I didn't get with Rainbow Dash. Fluttershy wasn't a pony who was very good at regulating and dealing with emotions. She had, of course, had some big hits before, but never one like this. The emotional whiplash of this washed over her like a tsunami. She began sobbing again, with the tears of exhaustion and relief. Twilight seemed to suddenly understand what was going on, and she quickly moved onto the chair with her and gave her a tight embrace. I'm so sorry about this whole mess. It's all my fault, she said, trying to comfort her as best she could. Fluttershy cried into her neck whilst taking big, shaky breaths. After a few minutes of silent embrace, two loose threads in Fluttershy's mind suddenly caught on to each other and tightened. If it wasn't Rainbow Dash, who was it? She asked quietly. Twilight let out a nervous chuckle. Do you really want to know? Yes, if you don't mind. Twilight smiled sheepishly. Trixie. Trixie? Started Fluttershy, moving out of the hug to look at her in disbelief. Twilight's ears flattened back. Twilight had made out with Trixie? The same Trixie that had done all the terrible damage to the town? The same Trixie that had forced her to be the linchpin of the whole plan? The same Trixie that... The list could go on and on. Yeah, Twilight said slowly. Why? Fluttershy just could not understand. Well, why would you want to be with someone who calls themselves the great and powerful? You hate arrogant ponies like that. Twilight looked away bashfully, with Fluttershy's eyes widening as she realized she was blushing. That's just the thing. Oh, Twilight. It was Flut's turn to give Twilight a big hug. How are we going to sort this one out? She said in a comforting tone. She could feel Twilight relaxing in her grip. Your secret is safe with me, as long as you don't tell anybody how I feel about Dashy. I would never. Not until the day I die. Or the day you get together. One of the two. Fluttershy shrank away from the hug and placed a hoof reassuring on hers. Okay, let's figure out a plan. I'm not the best at this, but I'll try my hardest. Twilight smiled. It seems like that was all she needed. With Fluttershy by her side, Twilight moved towards the wagon just parked outside of Ponyville. It was around 7 p.m. now, and Twilight was ready for what was about to come. It's not too late to turn back now, you know, Fluttershy mumbled. Twilight smiled in an affectionate way as she looked at her. Why was Flutz more nervous about this than she was? I have to do this. For me. Twilight reassured herself. It's just like we spoke about. I need to take back some control. Fluttershy only replied with an accepting whimper. She went up to the door and glanced at Flutz. Fluttershy nodded and respectfully hid in a nearby bush. Turning back to the door of the caravan, Twilight took a deep breath. This was it. She wouldn't be controlled by her any longer. She confidently plopped 3 times on the door. Trixie, it's me. We need to talk. She heard a little clatter from inside as something moved in shock. Twilight raised an eyebrow as she heard hurried cleaning and metal blinging against each other. She stepped back down as Trixie opened the door. Her mane was now freshly brushed, but she seemed halfway through getting ready for bed. She had a special nighttime wizard's hat on, as well as a sleepy cloak. Trixie's smile was genuine as she saw Twilight. Twilight felt a shudder go through her as the blush returned on her face. The Trixie fog was back, but this time she had a searchlight of purpose blazing through it. Ah, Twilight, my beloved. How may... She started in her usual tone, but Twilight cut her off. Shut up, Trixie, she said firmly. But her voice did wobble a bit, which Trixie looked pleased about. This has gone on too long. I hate the power you have over me, she said. Trixie stuck out her tongue, but didn't speak. She wanted to hear what she had to say. So? She gulped. Trixie, would you like to go on a date with me? Trixie opened her mouth to give a snarky response. But for once, it was her who was on the back hoof. She looked truly rattled. Twilight let a little smile slip out. You? She stumbled over her words a bit before clearing her throat. You wish to go on a date with the great and powerful Trixie? No, I want to go on a date with Trixie Lulumoon. The real Trixie. Trixie's eyes narrowed, and yet the smug grin remained on her face. Tomorrow evening, at Sugar Cube Corner, Twilight quickly added. Trixie slowly nodded. I will have to check my diary, but I suppose I can find the time to have a meal with you, she said, trying her best to keep her composure as she fidgeted with her mane. I will, see you there, Twilight replied. You may, and remember, Twilight, I expect you to be in peak condition for me, she said, winking at her. Twilight repressed a little nervous laugh at her demand as she felt another shiver go down her spine. The horse still had it. Trixie very quickly retreated back into her wagon, and Twilight could hear a little squeal from behind the door. The date was on. Twilight now had to go on a date with Trixie. Fuck.
Hello, it's me, Bunny. Again, I'm plugging Sina, aka Red Hoodie 21's GoFundMe. He's raising money to get him and his cat Oscar out of an abusive home. More info can be found in the GoFundMe link below. If you do donate, you can take a screenshot of the donation receipt and email it to me at bunnyblastYGO@gmail.com. Then, I'll send you the current fics I'm narrating up to 4 weeks in advance as soon as I finish them. Beyond that, this Friday, we will be starting Magic Disagrees by Red Hoodie 21. And next Tuesday, we'll be back with Chapter 5, The Crater. Also, this Friday at 12 EST, I am going to be streaming Deltarune. I need to kill the knight. Twitch.tv/BunnyBlastYGO. Pretty self-explanatory. Bye!